Welcome back. Let's start the second part of the episode. Please like this video and subscribe the channel. Robin sat motionless for several seconds after returning to her seat. Her testimony lingered heavily over the courtroom like smoke after a wildfire. Some members of the audience looked sympathetic toward her for the first time all day. Others appeared even more skeptical than before. But nobody could deny one thing. Every person in that courtroom believed their version of the story. Christine believed she had been emotionally abandoned. Janelle believed she had been financially exploited. Mary believed she had been erased. Robin believed she had been unfairly blamed. And Cody believed he had sacrificed everything trying to hold impossible expectations together. The courtroom no longer felt like a legal proceeding. It felt like a battlefield built from memory. The judge struck the gavel again, restoring order. Whispers died. Pens stopped scratching. Then the clerk announced the next witness. Cody Brown. The room froze. Cody stood slowly. The scrape of his chair against the floor echoed loudly through the courtroom. He adjusted his jacket, squared his shoulders, and inhaled deeply as if preparing for combat. For years, he had been the center of the family. The leader. The husband. The narrator. Now he walked toward the witness stand as a man forced to explain himself under oath. He placed his hand on the Bible. His voice remained steady when he swore to tell the truth. But tension radiated from him. He sat. The judge gave a small nod. Mr. Brown, you may begin. Cody looked across the courtroom. Christine stared at him with controlled fury. Janelle sat rigid and analytical. Mary remained unreadable. Robin looked heartbroken. The children in the audience avoided his gaze. Then Cody finally spoke. I know people think they understand me. His voice was lower than usual. More tired. They watched my family on television for years. They saw arguments, vacations, celebrations, and mistakes. He swallowed hard. But nobody understands what it felt like to carry all of this. The courtroom remained silent. Cody leaned forward slightly. People talk about plural marriage like it's either beautiful or toxic. He shook his head. The truth is that it's exhausting. A murmur spread through the audience. You are constantly balancing emotions, expectations, needs, and crises. Someone is always hurting. Someone is always angry. Someone is always feeling neglected. He looked briefly toward Christine. Christine says I abandoned her. Toward Janelle. Janelle says I failed financially. Toward Mary. Mary says I erased her. Then toward Robin. And Robin says she became everyone's target. His jaw tightened. Maybe there's truth in all of that. The courtroom shifted uneasily. But what nobody wants to admit is that I was drowning too. The sentence hung heavily in the air. Cody continued. For years, I tried to keep this family together while the entire world judged every decision I made. His voice grew sharper. You think this was easy? You think being responsible for 4 marriages and dozens of children was easy? Christine scoffed loudly. The bailiff immediately warned her. Cody ignored the interruption. I bent myself in every direction trying to make everyone happy. His eyes flashed. And eventually something broke. The room remained tense. Cody described the pressure of constant filming, the criticism, the online attacks, the feeling that his entire identity had become a television performance. There were times I didn't even know where the real me ended anymore, he admitted. Reporters scribbled furiously. I wasn't just a husband. I became a character. His voice softened. And characters aren't allowed to fail quietly. For a brief moment, sympathy flickered across parts of the courtroom. Then Cody made a mistake. Maybe I connected more deeply with Robin. The air changed instantly. Christine's eyes narrowed. Janelle folded her arms. Mary's expression hardened. Cody noticed immediately but continued anyway. She understood me in ways the others didn't. Christine slammed her hand against the bench. Oh, now we're finally getting honesty, she snapped. The judge's gavel thundered. Order. Cody's face reddened. I loved all of them, he insisted. Maybe differently. Maybe imperfectly. But I loved them. Silence. Then he added quietly, and I gave everything I had. The words sounded less defensive now. Almost broken. Kody admitted he lost patience, lost control, lost perspective. He admitted there were moments he emotionally withdrew, moments where he avoided difficult conversations, moments where he favored peace with one wife over conflict with another. "But I never woke up intending to destroy my family," he said. The courtroom listened carefully. "I truly believed I could hold everyone together." Then his voice cracked for the first time. "And maybe that was my biggest mistake." Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. Because for the first time all day, Kody sounded honest. Not polished. Not performative. Just exhausted. Then came the moment that changed everything. A child stood from the audience. One of the Brown children. No longer young. No longer silent. The courtroom turned immediately. The young adult walked slowly toward the witness stand. Hands trembling. Eyes red. The room thickened with emotion. For years, the children had remained mostly in the background of the family story. Now one of them was stepping forward publicly. The oath was administered. The child sat. For several seconds, they could not speak. Then finally, "I don't even know where to begin." Their voice trembled. "Because this isn't just about money." Silence. "This is about what it was like growing up inside all of this." Every adult in the courtroom froze. The child looked toward Kody. "We watched our moms cry." Toward Christine. "We watched arguments." Toward Robin. "We watched favoritism." Toward everyone. And we learned very early that love inside this family felt conditional. The sentence cut through the room like glass. Kody looked devastated. The child continued. "There were birthdays you missed." Their voice cracked. "Games you skipped. Calls you didn't return." Kody's attorney whispered urgently, but Kody remained silent. "We noticed where your attention went," the child said. "We all noticed." Christine wiped tears from her eyes. Janelle stared downward. Mary closed her eyes briefly. Robin gripped Kody's hand tightly. The child inhaled shakily. "You always told us family was everything." Then came the sentence that shattered the room. "But half the time it felt like we were competing for your love." A gasp spread across the courtroom. Kody opened his mouth. The judge immediately warned him not to interrupt. The child's tears finally spilled over. "You made us feel like we had to earn attention." Silence. "You made us feel divided." Then another child stood. Older. Angrier. More certain. Without hesitation, they approached the front. This testimony carried no trembling fear. Only frustration. "You want to know what it was like growing up in this family?" they asked. It was chaos. The room leaned in. One day, everything was about unity. The next day, everyone was taking sides. Their eyes locked onto Kody. "You used us in battles with our mothers." Kody's face hardened. "You made us choose emotionally even when nobody said the words out loud." The child's voice rose. "We carried stress we were never supposed to carry." Christine sobbed openly. Janelle looked shattered. Mary stared at the floor. And now, the child continued, "We're adults dealing with scars from problems we didn't create." The silence afterward felt unbearable. The judge finally called for recess. Nobody moved immediately. Because nobody knew how. The courtroom had transformed. This was no longer simply about marriage. It was about generational damage. About emotional consequences. About children growing up inside conflict disguised as unity. When proceedings resumed, the legal teams introduced financial evidence. And the atmosphere changed yet again. Now came the paperwork. The records. The numbers. Christine's attorney presented financial statements tied to shared family accounts. The courtroom watched carefully as charts, documents, and bank transfers appeared on screens. These records show disproportionate spending benefiting specific households, the attorney explained. Kody shifted uncomfortably, particularly expenditures related to Robin Brown. Gasps spread quietly. The attorney continued. Meanwhile, requests involving medical expenses and housing concerns for other family members were delayed or denied. Christine looked physically ill hearing it spoken aloud. Janelle sat absolutely still. Mary stared ahead blankly. Robin looked horrified. One message displayed on the screen drew immediate attention. A request for financial help regarding surgery expenses. Kody's response appeared beneath it. The courtroom collectively exhaled. The imbalance suddenly looked undeniable. Next came property records connected to Coyote Pass, the land once presented publicly as the family's shared future. Maps and ownership documents covered the courtroom display boards. Janelle's attorney spoke carefully. These documents indicate unequal ownership structures inconsistent with verbal agreements presented to family members. The judge reviewed the paperwork slowly. Significant portions were legally tied primarily to Kody and Robin. Not equally distributed. Not equally protected. The audience buzzed with disbelief. Kody finally exploded. I structured it that way to simplify the process. The judge slammed the gavel. Mr. Brown, control yourself. But the damage had already been done. His anger exposed something raw. Desperation. Fear. Loss of control. Mary's attorney followed with another devastating revelation. Evidence suggesting her financial contributions had repeatedly been excluded from official ownership structures. Despite years of involvement. Despite years of support. Mary looked shattered. The judge removed his glasses slowly, then finally spoke. This court is deeply concerned by patterns reflected in these documents. Nobody moved. The issues before this court extend beyond emotional conflict. His voice darkened. There are serious questions regarding fairness, representation, and financial conduct. Kody stared downward. The wives remained silent. And for the first time since proceedings began, the reality became unavoidable. This family had not simply drifted apart. It had fractured under years of imbalance. Years of silence. Years of emotional compromise. Outside the courthouse, media coverage exploded. Commentators debated blame. Social media erupted into arguments. Some defended Kody. Some condemned him. Others sympathized with all parties involved. But inside the courtroom, public opinion no longer mattered. Only truth did. And truth was becoming harder to survive. The final day of proceedings arrived beneath dark clouds and relentless rain. Reporters lined the courthouse steps before sunrise. Crowds gathered behind barricades hoping to witness the conclusion of a family saga that had unfolded publicly for years. Inside the courtroom, however, the mood was far different from the frenzy outside. Exhaustion hung over everyone. The wives looked emotionally drained. The children avoided cameras. Even Kody appeared diminished. No longer angry. No longer defiant. Just tired. The judge entered promptly. Everyone stood. Then sat again in silence. The final phase had begun. Closing statements. Christine's attorney spoke first. She described decades of unpaid emotional labor, sacrifices, unequal treatment, promises never legally protected. This case, she said firmly, is about recognizing value that was repeatedly overlooked. Janelle's attorney followed. This court has seen substantial evidence of unequal financial structures benefiting select parties. He gestured toward the evidence tables. My client contributed extensively to the survival of this family while receiving far less legal protection than she was promised. Mary's attorney spoke quietly but forcefully. For years, my client was erased emotionally and financially while continuing to contribute loyally to the family structure. Then came Robin's attorney. He argued that Robin had become the symbolic target for years of unresolved problems. She did not create every fracture in this family. Finally, Kody's attorney rose. He acknowledged mistakes, poor decisions, emotional failures, but insisted Kody never acted malicious intent. He was attempting to manage an extraordinarily complex family structure under extraordinary public pressure. The judge listened silently. Then he called a brief recess before delivering preliminary rulings. During that recess, something unexpected happened. Kody approached the hallway window alone. Rain streaked down the glass. Behind him, footsteps approached. Christine. For a long moment, neither spoke. Then Christine quietly said, I used to think I needed you to understand my pain before I could move on. Kody looked at her. But I don't anymore. There was no anger left in her voice. Only closure. Kody swallowed hard. I never wanted to hurt you. Christine gave a sad smile. I know. Then she added, but you did. The words broke something inside him. Not because they were cruel, because they were true. Across the hallway, Janelle sat beside Mary. Neither woman spoke for several minutes. Finally, Mary laughed softly through tears. "Can you believe this is where we ended up?" Janelle shook her head. "No." Then after a pause, "But maybe this is where we finally become ourselves again." Meanwhile, Robin sat alone, watching, thinking, realizing perhaps for the first time that even though she still had Kody beside her, the family she once dreamed of no longer existed. When court resumed, the atmosphere felt strangely calm. The storm had already happened. Now came the aftermath. The judge reviewed financial rulings, property divisions, compensation agreements, shared obligations. The details were lengthy, but emotionally, everyone waited for one thing: the judge's final remarks. He removed his glasses slowly, then looked directly at the Brown family. This court cannot repair emotional damage. Silence. It cannot restore lost years. Nobody moved. But it can acknowledge that sacrifice occurred on all sides. His eyes moved across the room. What began as a shared vision eventually became unsustainable. Kody stared downward. The judge continued. "Perhaps the greatest tragedy is not that this family changed." He paused. "It is that many members continued suffering long after they knew it already had." Christine closed her eyes. Janelle wiped away tears. Mary looked emotionally hollow. Robin held Kody's hand tightly. The judge finalized the rulings. Then came the final strike of the gavel. "This matter is concluded." Just like that, it was over. No dramatic music. No television edits. No triumphant ending. Only silence. People rose slowly from their seats. Reporters rushed outside. Attorneys gathered paperwork. The children embraced their mothers. Kody remained seated longer than everyone else, staring at the empty witness stand, at the place where years of secrets had finally been spoken aloud. Robin touched his shoulder gently. "We should go." Kody nodded slowly. As he stood, his eyes drifted across the courtroom one last time. Christine was laughing softly with one of her daughters. A real laugh. Free. Janelle stood surrounded by children and documents, somehow looking stronger than ever. Mary hugged someone tightly while wiping tears from her cheeks. And for the first time, Kody realized something painful. The family had not survived because of him. In many ways, it had survived despite him. Outside, cameras exploded with flashes as the Brown family exited the courthouse separately. Not together. Never together again. Christine paused briefly on the courthouse steps. Rain fell softly around her. A reporter shouted, "Do you regret leaving?" Christine looked upward for a moment, then answered simply, "No." Janelle declined interviews entirely. Mary offered only one sentence. "I finally found my voice." Robin avoided cameras. Kody stopped only once. One reporter asked, "Do you think your family can heal after this?" Kody stood silently in the rain, then finally answered, "I hope my children do." It was the most honest thing he had said all week. Months later, life looked different for everyone. Christine built a peaceful home filled with laughter instead of tension. Janelle focused on financial independence and rebuilding stability. Mary rediscovered herself beyond the identity of wife. Robin remained with Kody, though the weight of everything exposed in court never fully disappeared. And Kody? Kody lived quietly for the first time in decades. No cameras. No interviews. No speeches about unity. Only reflection. Sometimes he replayed the courtroom testimony in his mind. Christine's fire. Janelle's evidence. Mary's heartbreak. Robin's defense. His children's pain. And eventually he understood something that came too late. Love alone had never been enough. Not without fairness. Not without presence. Not without accountability. The Brown family story had once been sold as proof that love multiplied could conquer anything. But the courtroom revealed a different truth. Love without balance creates resentment. Love without honesty creates distance. And love without equal care eventually collapses beneath its own weight. In the end, nobody truly won. Not Kody. Not the wives. Not even the viewers who had spent years choosing sides. Because behind every headline, every argument, and every public breakdown stood a family that once genuinely believed they could build something extraordinary. And somewhere along the way, they lost each other. But perhaps there was still one small victory hidden beneath all the damage. The silence was finally broken. The truth had finally been spoken. And for the first time in years, every member of the family was finally free to stop pretending.